Hi everyone, we're back here in Los Angeles. It's so good to be back, to be able to do these live sessions with all of you again. So we'll start with the news today. The thing about USCIS on the ground, right? This is something that we've been hearing from USCIS officers at the AILA conference, the American Immigration Lawyer Association conference, and what we're seeing on the ground from all our case filing. The unintended consequence of USCIS being completely disrupted in this day and age. The unintended consequence is actually a bunch of cases getting approved at record speeds. Like, I would not have expected this to be the result of the second term Trump administration on USCIS. It might be short lived, but we're seeing things that normally take 6 months to a year to some being adjudicated within a month. Some things are getting approved within 2-3 weeks. Record speeds. I mean, I'm talking about past 10 years comparison record speeds. That doesn't mean old cases that have been pending for a long time, that they will suddenly be faster. That doesn't mean complex cases will suddenly be short. I'm talking about a lot of the straightforward cases that we've been filing. And in the past, because of the huge amount of backlog, I would have told clients, it doesn't matter how straightforward the case is, whether it's a marriage petition, whether it's a motion to reopen, whether it's a reinstatement, whether it's a business case with premium processing or not. It doesn't matter what kind of case, because they're so backlogged, it just takes time for them. Nobody's even looking at it. But now, I mean, I don't even know how to explain it, why certain cases that normally take 6 months to a year gets approved within 1 month. Military parole cases, motion to reopen. Last week we did 2 success stories on motion to reopen. And again, in the past, it takes 6 months to a year to adjudicate, or longer, right? And we've seen cases take a year and a half to adjudicate a very simple correction. It was done within a month, right? And after coming back from AILA conference, a lot of my different departments reported to me, this case got approved within a month, this case got approved within a month. It's record speed approvals. And how do I kind of mesh that with what we've been hearing from AILA, from immigration officers that work with USCIS, past officers, current officers? Well, this is what we heard. Okay, so now you know premise 1. Cases are being adjudicated at record speeds. Why? And what we've been hearing is that there is this level of fear among USCIS officers, both at the service center level, at the field offices, basically people who are adjudicating these cases, without also a clear direction from the government, from the top, about how to adjudicate a lot of these cases. A lot of new officers are not well trained. We're told to expect bizarre requests for evidence. We're told to expect wrong denials. All that is fair. That's exactly what you would expect to hear when an administration is understaffed, overworked, and don't have enough training, without clear direction, and in a constant state of fear because their emails are being monitored, they're potentially being monitored what they say. So any communication with officers, we're told to not do it through email, even through the phone. You want to meet them face to face and take them out for lunch or take them out for coffee, meet in private liaison meetings, but don't do it because everything is being monitored. Like, in that state of fear, while you are poorly trained, while all the other senior officers, a lot of people in the past couple months took the buyout and have left USCIS, both at the service level and at the field office level. When that is the state of your organization, of course we are told to expect wrong denials, wrong requests for evidence. But what nobody told us was that we would actually get an expedited approval on so many of these cases. And if we're seeing it, I'm talking with my colleagues at other law firms, they're also seeing it too. And so that is sort of the unintended consequence of people who have filed in the past couple months, as well as now, maybe in the next few months, because the administration, immigration as a whole, there's so many priorities that they're going after, right? Priority of revamping ICE, priority of all the foreign policies, all the different countries, all the issues that's going on elsewhere. The consulate, fighting with Harvard, right? There's so many other immigration agencies, the immigration judges the backlog with the courts, the asylum, the refugee, the custom border protection, stripping them of the humanitarian parole option. So now everything has to be routed through Washington, D.C. Just so many issues are now bottlenecked at the top. USCIS is just not a top priority. And so now they are in a state of, I don't know what the clear direction is. I don't know what the vision for this organization is. Are we a benefit agency or are we a vetting agency? Those are completely polar opposite philosophies, right? Are we an agency that give people benefits like driver license, like alcohol license? Are we there to give, or are we there to vet and say, no, you are taking advantage of US, we're denying you, and then taking the denials and give it to ICE, we're deporting you, right? Are you a vetting agency or are you a benefit agency? Are you treating people who pay thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to the government with these applications? Are you treating them as customers? Or are you treating them as scammers? Of course, the answer is a both and, but which way are you leaning, right? And different administration agencies from the top, you will get directives. We want you to primarily approve cases. We want you to primarily issue requests for evidence, right? And there's incentives and things like that. So without clear direction from top, while being underpaid, understaffed, and with a slow hiring process, everything is very complicated. The unintended consequence that we've never seen before is the super fast adjudication of cases. Maybe it's because of two things. Maybe it's because they're utilizing AI a lot more, or because they're just, when it comes in, just immediate approval. And they will try to maybe revoke it later on if there's a bigger problem. But that's what we're seeing on the ground. If it's a complicated case, maybe it will take just as long or longer. Or if it's a complicated case, you're going to get a denial and you have to do a motion to reopen to correct that mistake. But if it's a simple case, somehow in this administration, when so many people are afraid to file, somehow these cases are getting adjudicated super fast. Now, again, I don't have all the facts. Okay, I'm just telling you what I'm seeing on the ground. And please don't think this is a sales call of like, okay, hire us so we can file. I'm not saying we are any special, right? Colleagues, I'm just seeing what's on the ground. If you have a simple case, I encourage you to file your application. Don't be reading the news in a state of fear and thinking, okay, I'll wait for a better time later on. We did a whole live session last week. We really went in depth to talk about this issue. Later on, once you have a clear directive of what the new requirements are, maybe you don't qualify anymore and your case will be almost for certain denied. Right now, maybe it's just messy. Maybe it's just slow or fast. Maybe it's just you need to do a little extra work to be clear. Instead of providing 10 documents to prove your marriage is real, do a little more. Provide 15 or 20. If you're supposed to prove you're extraordinary, you're to get a green card, instead of providing 50 documents, maybe provide a little bit more. Right now, the policy, a lot of the adjudicating officers are still adjudicating based on the memos from what they've seen in the past, because there's no clear top-down new directive. And so we're seeing these record speed approvals. Not what you would have expected, whether they're using AI or whether the officers are just trying to push through the cases to be as efficient as possible. Either way, it is good news for anyone who's filing basic cases. If it's slightly more complex, then just do a better job and making it simple for the officer, right? One of the key takeaways from the AILA conference, from every AILA conference, and from this discussion, my team, when we came back, we did a whole presentation on this yesterday. They said, in the past they thought USCIS government officials are these high and mighty judges who are just reviewing case and ready to deny. And what we've learned, and we learned this again and again, USCIS officers, they are just normal people. This is their job. They want to be good. They have family also. A lot of them are immigrants themselves. A lot of them are in a state of undertrained, not equipped, time pressured to do a case. So instead of treating them like a high and mighty judge who's about to ruin your life. Treat them like a fellow human being and make it easy for them. Make their job easy. Help them help you succeed, right? Make your case extra clear, bold, underline, highlight, explain the law. Maybe they didn't get the training on this specific issue, but it's unique to your case. Explain it to them. And so that's a big takeaway from the team that went to AILA this year. And again, the results speak for themselves, right? So many cases, record speeds. That's the news that I wanted to share, right? I went to the San Antonio office, talked with a local officer there. We went to AILA National to talk to the USCIS officers who took the buyout and who know the internal feeling of USCIS, both at the service level and at the field level. And so we have a sense of what's going on. But again, what we didn't expect are these record approvals. So again, encouragement to anybody who has a case and you have a good case, you definitely should file. You should not be just waiting for a better time, because that time might actually be never, and it actually might make your case not approvable if the standards rise later on. I'll take questions before I jump into the key success story for the day.
So yeah, anyone feel free to drop in and ask questions. One is, what does USCIS mean? Sorry for asking, I'm just new here.
Yeah, USCIS is the United States Immigration Services. They are you could think of the big bureaucracy arm approving everything that you hear about and see, right? So the way immigration works in America, there's the USCIS, which is the biggest agency approving, denying all the benefits. But just because they approve it, there's checks and balances within the immigration world. A lot of people still have to go to the consulate to get the actual visa. They do another secondary inspection there. And just because you got a visa and it's approved by USCIS doesn't mean you can get into the country safely. The border, right? The border or at the airport, the CBP officers, they also have an immigration enforcement authority in which they could see, okay, are you really what you say you are, or did you fake it? Did the other two agencies misread a certain situation? So they're the kind of police force to kind of adjudicate if you're entering and exiting in the right visa category. If you are not, you are violating your status, you're illegal in some sort of way, USCIS, the consulate, and the CBP customs, they can all report it to ICE, and that's where ICE picks up different people and tries to deport them, right? And so that's their sole responsibility. So ICE doesn't give any benefits. CBP doesn't give any benefits. Consulate doesn't give any benefits per se necessarily. They give some a little bit, but majority of it is with USCIS. So today's news was really about USCIS as the government agencies approving marriage petitions, approving work petitions, them adjudicating everything. So them being in a state of fear, underpaid, overworked, not equipped. How are they adjudicating all these cases? Well, in record speed is what I'm saying.
Can someone with a pending change of status leave the country?
It depends. So, if you are for example, if you're a tourist submitting extension, you want to stay for an extra couple months, the answer is if you leave, you forfeit that, and you just lost your rights, and your tourist visa will actually get denied. Okay, so so you can't in that situation. Other situations, like if you're in a state of adjustment of status, right? You are trying to get your green card, and if you are eligible to file for a work permit or an advanced parole, and that is approved, then you can use it to travel. But if it's not approved yet, and then you travel, your case is abandoned as well. So, can you leave the country while it's pending? Depends on your specific situation.
Yeah, feel free to drop any more questions in chat, everyone. So someone says, I have a question on House Bill HR 875 on DUI. Will it be applied retroactively to previous DUIs from 2008 LPR?
I do not know enough about that. I wish I did, but I rarely ever look at current bills because a lot of them just die before it actually gets enacted, and after it's enacted, it takes sometimes months or years before USCIS or the government actually comes up with a state of play and direction on how to implement it. And so instead of speculating on all of that, I usually don't look into it. Now, it is very important, right? And obviously, if it affects you in the past, that's very harmful. But let's just say hypothetically, right? Let's say you're a green card holder, you have a past DUI offense, or you have other misdemeanor and criminal offenses. And then in the future, whatever bill it is, somehow, at some point, you get in trouble. CBP, police officers, hands you over to ICE. And now they're saying, because of this new law, your past conviction, your past arrest, your past admission, whatever the case, your past record now enables them to deport you. There is a thing called cancellation of removal. It is your ultimate backup defense. It is your trump card to throw Trump back at this administration. It is your secret weapon, your ace in the hole, to say, okay, sure, based on that, you can deport me, this new law. However, that is unjust, that is cruel. Based on cancellation and removal, I can get my green card again. So, if you're in a state of fear and concern, look into cancellation and removal, both 42A and 42B, and hopefully it gives you a lot of peace of mind.
Okay, so apparently this person is trying to call our office, but no one is answering the phone, so that's concerning. They say they're on parole 212 D5. They have a pending I-130. And they need to go to ICE in August. Will it be dangerous? They're currently married to a U.S. citizen.
Yes. Anytime you go to ICE, it is very dangerous. So my recommendation is prepare a really good file. You don't have to hire a lawyer to do that. You can prepare a good file. What is a good file? You are basically preparing everything about you, show all the equities you have, so that ICE wants to not detain you. Again, a lot of people might not understand this. ICE does not want to detain most people. They want to register them, which is very different than detaining them, right? Because they're under this mandatory imperative to register all undocumented people. But registering just means getting a list and an Excel sheet going. It does not mean actually detaining, because if you detain, then they have to pay a lot of money, a lot of taxpayer money, to a contractor, which is not even the government, and they get a lot of blame, right? And so now it is true they have quotas to deport people and all that stuff, but if you have strong equity, a lot of these ICE officers, they are humans too. Maybe their beliefs are different than you, but they still understand the law, and they're still making these discretionary adjudications. Should I detain this person versus this person, right? And so your spouse, U.S. citizen, your children, U.S. citizen, you have good employment, you have good letter recs, you're paying a lot of taxes, you have a lot of equity to show that you could probably win in the court. Show them this, because you know what? They don't know it. If you don't show them, they don't know it. And if they don't know it, then guess what? They're just going to judge you, right? So one thing I've learned about officers, about professional life, about anything, is that regardless of what you do, people will judge you. They're going to judge you based on their prejudice. They're going to judge you based on their own individual political beliefs and their worldviews. And so if you don't give them something to judge you by, they will judge you based on their conception. And that is not a place you want to be, because then you're leaving it up to chance. So prepare the file, let them judge you based on your presentation. The way you dress, the way your resume it looks, your diplomas, your letter recommendations, your tax returns. If you're going to detain me, well, here's my information. Based on all this, if you're still going to detain me, well, then you detain me, right? But how many people are preparing these files? That's all lawyers can do for you in this situation anyways, is to help you prepare this file, prepare these arguments. But you could totally do that as well.
I came here... Oh, I see some people asking if they can ask questions. Yes, everyone feel free to put your questions in the chat, post on Instagram and on TikTok. I came here legally with my husband. We are divorcing after 21 years of marriage. I just renewed last year. Will I lose my visa now?
Your visa or your green card? If you came here with your husband 20 plus years ago, if you already have a green card, you should be fine. It is true that officers are very suspicious of people who get their green card through marriage, but they divorce within 1 or 2 years. And sometimes they sneak through the whole, there's no interview waiver, there's no interview, and their interview was waived, and so they get the 10-year green card, but they actually already divorced. and it was suspicious, CBP officers could catch it and then report to ICE. That is totally true.
But, so yeah, they have a green card, so it should be fine.
Yeah, if you have a green card, you've been married for 21 years, you get separated, that's not a big issue.
Do we take cases like the I-130 going to ICE? Could we help them, and should we? So
like I said, the best advice I give you is to prepare that file. Now, if you really want us to help you, or you want any attorney to help you, that's what we could do. We could help you prepare the file, and if you really want to, we can go with you to ICE. But again, the attorney can only stand behind you to make sure they're doing everything, and if something happens, they can, maybe talk about it, but they cannot really make ICE officers to free you, right? I mean, they're police officers. They have full authority. So we're really there just to kind of help you have the highest chance of success, but it's in that regard, right? So I don't want people to feel like they have to hire lawyers for everything, right? It's building just that file before you go.
So yeah, people feel free to book a consultation on our website if you want to talk with us face-to-face about it. Someone says, removing the 2-year conditions.
Yeah.
Will that be an issue?
A lot of people need to file for the 10-year green card. They have a conditional 2-year green card, whether through marriage or through investment. Those are the only two temporary green cards. And so when you need to get the 10-year green card, you need to file a new application. And if your case is good, like what I was saying earlier, we're seeing record speeds of approval, right? So, I mean, a few years, not a few years, just even last year, we're seeing 3 years adjudication time for some of these, 3-year or 4-year adjudication time for some of these removal condition cases. Now, maybe it'll be cut down to a year, right? Like back before COVID. I mean, it's pretty insane what's going on. But, again, it's hard to predict the future, but that's what we're seeing now. So just prepare a good case and file as soon as you can and see what happens.
Can people get married with green cards?
Of course. You can, yeah. You could get married, you could get divorced.
I have a prior conviction from my homeland in 2001. I got a green card 2017. I now need to renew my green card. Can I renew without any issues? I haven't committed any crimes after obtaining the green card.
Most likely. So file the I-90 and hope for the best. Because again, the green card renewal process, as well as the N-400 process, most of the time they're looking at the past 5 years. That's what they're like hyper-focused on. Your criminal offense was actually predates your green card application. So in that case, you're even more at peace and at ease. But prepare for the worst, just in case you get a request for evidence. Definitely want to be able to explain and prepare everything so you can still find the judgment, the minutes, the certified court disposition of the trial. Just do it just in case for your peace of mind. But most likely you'll be fine. Unless it's a drug offense. All right, just putting it out there. If it's a marijuana drug offense, if it's a felony, do a little bit more prep.
What happens to cases that have been previously administratively closed, admin closed, if a person does not have any other relief available?
Oof. Okay, let me paint the context for you, for everybody who's watching, just so we understand what we're talking about. Somebody has been caught by ICE, is in immigration court proceedings, and is about to be deported. And through the miracle of our immigration system, the attorneys, as well as the individual, makes a strong enough argument to say, please do not deport. Immigration judge, with all of its wisdom, his or her wisdom, decides closing this case, letting this person stay, is better for the United States than not. Okay? Just makes that decision. You don't get a green card, you don't get a citizenship, you don't get a visa, but we're not going to deport you. Admin close, ICE don't go after them anymore, and they stay. What happens to these people now? From the grapevine, from everything that we've been seeing on all the immigration news channels, immigration judges, as well as ICE, are now reopening old cases that have been admin closed. And what does that mean? That means people who thought they were completely safe now are going to relive that nightmare. in the new administration, will they be deportable? Will they deport? Will they close the case again? Will they pause the case? Is uncertain. But what I can say is it was to your benefit that the case was closed years ago. And since staying, you have continued to build up your presence and equity in the United States. Equity meaning your good reputation, your good moral character. And if the case is reopened, these judges, as well as ICE, they again have to make a determination of who are they going to deport. And you can imagine, if somebody's case was admin closed and then they lived a vile life afterwards, of course the government would want to deport them. If, however, you became an upstanding citizen in every way, shape, and form, will they close the case again? Hopefully they will. So, again, the salvation of being able to stay in the country is now put to the test again.
Where is your office located?
We are in the beautiful city of Artesia. It is right next to Anaheim, where Mickey Mouse lives.
Any updates on asylum-based green cards being processed?
That will probably be forever, still slow. And I actually don't really want to, can comment on asylum because we don't do any asylum cases. But from my reading of the immigration landscape, asylum refugees is just going to take forever.
I am LGBTQ. I was ordered removed in 2012, but was granted withholding of removal in California.
Okay. Congratulations. Hopefully you maintain the status and you're able to stay here and build up your equity. And let's see what happens later on. If they do reopen your case, again, back to the same situation. Can you prove you deserve that withholding removal once again? Or can you do a cancellation removal and actually get a green card, right?
But they say, am I in risk?
Yes. Anybody who's still on the court docket, right? They are gonna go. But again, like I said, there are millions of cases that are like this. So when will they get to you, right? I mean, it takes 6 months to a year to even pick the next appointment in court hearing for one case. Think about the court docket. They can only process so many people.
Okay, so they were green card holder. They had a prostitution solicitation down to a disorderly conduct plea. Can I renew my green card?
Potentially, right? You want to look at deportability and inadmissibility. Search those two terms up, and if you feel like you qualify for the exception, you do not have a crime of moral turpitude, you can make a good faith argument, then you are safe to get the new renewal green card. It's a slightly complicated. Normally, you want to consult a immigration attorney to look at exactly what your sentencing is, and then your immigration status, and then analyze it. But if you just use ChatGPT, if you just use the internet, look up deportability and exceptions, look at inadmissibility and exceptions, and then feed your own case into it, do analysis, you could get a good 60-70% feel about your case. So, depending on everything else, there's still a chance for you to be able to get your green card.
Does an approved EB2 NIW have an expiry date or expiry time?
The only way it is voided is if you actualize it, you make it into a green card, and then you abandon it. But if you don't, if it's just an I-140 approval and you never used it, you can actualize it again. But, I mean, you probably should, activating it it'll take a little bit of work, but you could totally react. We've activated 10-plus-year-old EB1A and EB2 NIW cases.
Do you know when the Dignity Act will be introduced or a vote on the American Dream and Promise Act?
I do not know.
Any thoughts on asylum cases that are waiting in their first interview since 2016 or 2017?
We don't practice asylum immigration law.
Can I renew DACA with reckless driving?
My gut feeling is yes. Again, want to do a little bit more detailed analysis. How fast were you driving? What were you doing? Can you prove good moral character, etc.? But my gut feeling is yes.
So my friend was self-deported, and they came back with a permanent green card. Are they safe now?
If they have a green card, they are pretty safe.
How long can it take to reschedule an affirmative asylum interview after failing to attend the interview because they only notified through a USCIS account?
I see. I don't know. We don't do asylum cases. It's best to consult the asylum attorney who does this on a day in, day out basis.
How long does it take for a child to file for their parent, and what is required?
Oh, great. So, you're a U.S. citizen, you want to petition for a parent. Depends on if you're filing in the United States or overseas. So, there's birth certificate, there's proof of no criminal record, there's the tax returns, there's the funding. You prove that you have enough assets and income to support them because you're the petitioner. If you don't, you have to have a cosigner. USCIS, the government agency that deals with all these, they actually have really helpful guides on their website. You could download the entire instruction and they kind of walk you through. They want to make things as simple as possible for everyone. So if you're doing it for the first time or you're daunted, you're scared for the whole process, take a look at it. They actually lay out everything. Obviously, lawyers come in when there's complications, but if it's a very straightforward case, take a look at it. So to demystify and to also make you feel much better.
Is it safe to fly domestic in the U.S. with a TPS pending?
In the past, almost all immigration lawyers will say yes because you're not seeing any customs official domestically, right? California to Hawaii, Hawaii to Alaska, Alaska to New York. You're not actually facing a customs officer. You're facing security guards, you're facing bag check, but you're not facing customs or ICE officers. In this administration, we've heard rumors of ICE and CBP officers roaming the different airports, even domestically. But these to me sound like rumors. I haven't seen major crackdown with domestic travel. I think that would seriously impact the way the U.S. economy is if even within domestic travel people are harmed. I think the way they indirectly are cracking down on that is the real ID, right? If you want to travel, domestically, you have to use passport or a real ID, and if you don't have that, then they are much more suspicious.
Can I still get an H-1B work visa even though I have a DUI conviction?
I think that's something you really want to look at. Again, the admissibility, deportability, that I know applies to green card, but it's much harder. We've done it before, but it's so in the air. I don't have full confidence to say every case we will be able to do. I think it really looks at the situation, how old you are, how long ago was this event, what was the penalty, what state, locality, etc.
I have a 751 pending, filed late. It's currently pending. Can I file my N400?
Yes, if you qualify. So you've maybe waited for 2 years, 3 years. You've already had a green card for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. You've already been married to a U.S. citizen for 3 years plus. You qualify for an N400, but for your permanent green card. Well, in that case, you could file the N400 to indirectly push them to approve your permanent green card.
I crossed the border. They gave me parole, 212D5A. My husband is a U.S. citizen. Can I adjust my status here?
But you also need a waiver, right? Because if you cross the border without being inspected, then you would need a formal waiver. But that's if you entered without inspection, EWI. If you were paroled in and you were admitted, then you don't need a waiver and your husband, U.S. citizen, files for you. You could directly get the green card.
How do I maintain legal status in the U.S. after an employment visa is approved while I wait for the priority date?
I see. So most people, it's their green card immigration, business immigration is approved. So that's usually the I-140 and there's a pending priority date. But that doesn't mean you can legally stay in the United States. To stay in the United States, you need another non-immigrant visa to allow you to stay while they kind of wait in line for your green card to get ultimately approved. And this could sometimes take 5 years, 10 years, or even longer, depending on which country you're from. In that situation, you could be a student, you could have any other immigration category, H-1B, TN, E-2, L-1, M-1, right? You have to find another way to be able to stay. Or you stay, you leave, you come back, stay on a different status. A lot of people, have to live through these different statuses.
The person, the last question said they were inspected. They took their fingerprints at the border.
Okay, so if you've been inspected and admitted, that is a very key legal doctrine. So now, if you get married to a U.S. citizen, you could adjust status.
Is it possible for it to seem to you like you were inspected, but legally you weren't inspected?
Yeah. So what you should do is maybe do a FOIA, pull the records from CBP, so you could prove to future USCIS officers that, look, I was for sure admitted. This was the situation. This was a stamp. This was the fingerprint. This is everything the government has on file for me. I did not just cross the border illegally. You want to be able to prove that.
Is it safe to fly domestic with DACA?
I would say so. I would definitely say so. Illegal immigrants flying domestically, my response was like a little bit more iffy, but I would still encourage them to not to be too afraid. But DACA, you have full legal status, right? So to fly and stay within the U.S.
Is the GC I-485 process easier if you were a national of a similar country such as the UK?
All things being equal, of course, right?
Do you want to expand on that?
Oh, do I? Oh, okay. USCIS, CBP, the consulate, they don't intentionally discriminate. Okay, I really want to emphasize that. These officers, a lot of times they're 2 years in, they're training. A lot of their training method, they're trying to be good people, but they have to work on statistics. So if you're from countries like Canada, like the UK, like France, like Germany, key partnering countries in the G7 or G20 for that matter, generally speaking, a lot of people don't violate immigration laws. And based on their wealth, their education, their capability, they are not a threat to the United States. But if you're from other countries that have a lot of baggage, meaning everybody who applied for a visa or a green card before you, 90% of them are fraudulent, or there was misrepresentation. Like, people of your country have made it that much difficult for future officers to adjudicate your case. So that's what I meant by when officers looking at these applications, if your application is from the UK, all things being equal with all the other countries, do you have a leg up? More likely, yes, right? And again, we do visas and green cards for people all over the world. And so we have a very clear understanding that that is reality. You can't blame the government, right? They are working with big data and they have to adjudicate it this way.
Can a person get his green card while a 440 is pending on his criminal case they entered with a visa?
What you want to really consult is a immigration attorney. You want to maybe have a criminal attorney and an immigration attorney and really analyze that particular conviction. The USCIS officer, they would most likely see the arrest and the trial is pending, and they would likely not enter a decision until the case was done. Or, worse yet, if they're so convinced that regardless of the outcome of the case, they could still deny the case, right? So the USCIS officer treat them like an immigration judge. They have the authority to make an adjudication without seeing the trial records or the outcome, right? If you just told them something and they hear it, they see something on your phone, they can make an adjudication, and you now have to fight their judgment through court. All right, so we're going to dive into the success story for today. Is about H-1B, legal immigration. If you think it's hard to get a job now as an American citizen, if you think it's hard to hire employees now as an employer, think about how much more difficult it is if you have to deal with immigration, and if you have to deal with immigration in a slightly complex situation. And what we're talking about here is H-1B. I know there's tons of other visa categories that allows for legal immigration, legal work status as a non-immigrant in the country other than H-1B. But H-1B is one of the most prevalent and hotly debated and talked about visas. And I just kind of want to go through what might seem simple in the beginning, but actually it's ultra complex. So the situation is this: a fresh graduate, actually, correction, a graduate, a PhD student about to graduate has been spotted by a top tier company in the industry and wants to hire her. So a huge company in the United States dealing with food science wants to hire a PhD scientist to deal with food processing. How can it be more straightforward than that to do an H-1B, right? But it's actually quite complicated, and I want to explain how everything went down and how it got approved within, again, a few weeks in this record processing time. Hi, my name is Joseph. I'm the managing partner here at Associates, where we solve legal problems with creative solutions. In this case, the legal problem is a PhD student about to graduate in 6 months was spotted and poached by a really large food processing company. It's a good match. Employer wants to hire, employee wants to work there, and they both want to work through this immigration process. But it's actually quite complicated because she didn't graduate yet. And if people who don't know, in the United States, if you didn't graduate a PhD yet, even though you've already studied for 5 years, you don't even get a master's degree. And the way immigration works is based on your credential, you are able to be slotted in certain H-1B applications, right? So do you get a cap? Do you get additional credits? But in this case, no. So she had to go through the lottery based on her bachelor's degree, because when we filed for the H-1B this year, we filed it in June, she didn't have her PhD degree yet. She doesn't get it until December. And what's also complicated was that the H-1B start date is October 1st. She didn't graduate yet. So how can you work as soon as possible while you still need to go study? And the location is across the country. So it's not even within the same town or city, okay? So PhD candidate, loved by the company, wants to hire her. She wants to work for the company, but can she? She wasn't planning to because, she was going to do OPT and all these other things, but she really wants the H-1B. It would be nice to have. So what we had to do, through this case, we had to contact the dean of her school to make sure she could do her studies while she while she works. Right? She was able to continue her studies online to finish up her last semester while working for the H-1B because she got selected. We had to file the H-1B based on her bachelor's degree, even though we already know she's about to complete her PhD. So what is her SOC code? What is her job title? What are her duties? What are her pay? All need to be based on her minimum bachelor's degree, and then prove exactly what duties she has to do. Her specialty in her PhD was actually quite different from the food processing company, but she's a talent that they really value. So we had to go through that analysis to make it work. Of course, we do that for every single case. But here's the tricky part. Additional complication is that she wants a green card already. So we had to go through the green card analysis before she even got her H-1B because, again, being the super qualified candidate that she is, she has a lot of options. So she's choosing which employer would hire her based on the H-1B and the green card process. So started the green card process, both the EB-2, EB-3, as well as the EB-1C, actually, to think about exactly what's the best way to position her so she could get the H-1B, so she could get the green card before she even graduated from her school. Let me see what else. Right? The complication actually goes on and on. So one of the things that we had to do is we had to make her position very senior and executive while being specialized, right? Because we didn't just need to make the argument for H-1B right here, right now. We also need to make sure it's managerial so that we can also slot her in for the future EB-2, EB-3, as well as EB-1C argumentation to get the green card. I don't know how companies, whether in-house company attorneys or big firms that do like 600 applications for, with one individual, how they do these kind of in-depth processing, because every single individual has their own desires and journey, as well as the company. So, we work very closely with the HR team from the company side to really recruit this highly talented individual. We work with the individual to kind of map out their immigration code, and we essentially we're doing dual representation, which is very common in the immigration field, but just on a simple H-1B case, So our firm is very boutique, right? We only do so many H-1B cases every single year because each one is so highly specialized, right? We're not pumping out by the hundreds, and so hundreds. I mean, that's a joke compared to big firms. They do like thousands for every season, but that's the level of creative solution to a legal problem. Like the legal problem, here is a PhD international student who's about to graduate, who wants to work and who wants a green card. And the company wants her, but how do you navigate all the complexities and the HR and the benefit and the petition? So we won the lottery in May. We filed the case in June, and within I think less than 2 weeks, the case was approved, and there, she slotted to start working on October 1st, and then very quickly start the green card application. Let me see if there's any other complications. Yeah, I guess that the biggest complication is the fact that she can't really be a food scientist, right? Everything she studies is to be a food scientist, but her application with the company doesn't really require a food scientist. So we needed to really figure out what is the best position for her within the company. See, again, the company knows what they need and what they could need. The applicant, the beneficiary, the foreigner, the international student, they know what they studied and what they're good at, what they're capable at. But just because of that, you also need to think about what USCIS would approve. You need to really look at all three circles and pick the one right in the middle, right? There's only so many options available for what the company needs, what the client is capable and qualified for, and what the government is willing to approve. And if you only hit one or two of these, you don't actually quite get it. So there's this other layer of adjudication that you need to be concerned about. So that's how we did this particular H-1B application. We thought we were going to get a request for evidence because of the complicated nature, right? It's a bachelor's degree, still in a PhD, didn't finish the program yet. It's in a position that's not exactly what she's studying. But again, record approval within just a week. So very, very happy for her. But this is also to show everyone what legal immigration is like, right? A huge company who wants to hire somebody who's willing to work for them, yet you still need to go through all this in-depth analysis to prepare to file and spend lots of money with government fees just so you can work for a few years. And that's not even talking about the green card process, which actually is much longer. Good. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully I'll be here next Thursday to do another show. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. The success story as well as the news and this whole live is recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. So if you missed anything, you want to see it, feel free to check it out. Take care. Bye-bye.